Good morning, guys. Just got back from my walk. I walked a couple miles today and it's today's October 22nd. Oh, no, 4th. And I calculated my heifer, Suki, who was the first successful birth on our farm. I calculated her birth. I thought it was the 22nd, but then I recalculated it. I got crazy hair, crazy everything. I've been feeding hay. Calculated her birth wrong. And it's the 25th. And today's the 24th. And I came back on my walk. And I'll just flip the camera around. Miss Patty, your halter's off again, sister. That is Miss Patty. She was born in May to Mia over here. And that is Suki, our cow now. She's no longer a heifer. She just gave birth. I am a massive Gilmore Girls fan since I was in the 7th grade. And we've kept with the Gilmore Girls theme, which Mia is the only one that's a far stretch because we named her Mama Mia and because we knew she'd be the matriarch of our herd. And she is. She's a grandmother now. Yep. So, but it works because Mia's name, the innkeeper that Lorelai goes to, if you watch Gilmore Girls, if you haven't, what are you doing with your life? Mia is the innkeeper that Lorelai goes to when she has Rory and needs a place to stay. Oh no, drop my glove. Don't eat it, Mia. She eats gloves. So we have Mama Mia. Oh, Suki's about to deliver that placenta in case any of you were all wondering. I'm not gonna make you watch that, but that's also good. The baby has foam around its mouth, so this baby has been nursing. And so we've gone with the Gilmore Girls theme. So Suki, which is Lorelai's best friend in the show. We don't have a Lorelai. And we have Miss Patty, which is one of the main characters. She is the dance teacher. She's a bodacious redhead. So Miss Patty. And we said, me and my sister were talking, and we were like, if we have a girl, there's another character on there, and her name is Babette. And if we have a boy, there's a character on there called Kirk. Now, my dad's name is Kirk, but the funny thing about Kirk on the show is he gets a cat, and he names it Kirk. And so they refer to it as Cat Kirk. So I was like, if we have a boy, we're going to name him Cow Kirk. And if we have a girl, we'll name her Babette. And there's like this classic line in Gilmore Girls when they're talking about Babette and Miss Patty. They're like the town gossips. And they're like, Babette, Miss Patty, Babette, Miss Patty. Now I'm assuming you're wondering if we're going to have a Cow Kirk or a Babette. Well, Babette, Miss Patty. We have 4 girls. 4 girls. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. It is a couple hours later. I have fed her some good grain and some alfalfa. I'm gonna feed her some more grain. Make sure they have fresh water. I think there was ice in the water this morning. The baby, I'm gonna flip you around, zoom in, but that baby is eating good. And with Mia, she never lets me watch that baby eat for like weeks. I have to like really worried about the baby. This has just been perfect. I have prayed and prayed and prayed for a healthy pregnancy, a healthy birth, that Suki would be a good mama, and that she would just it would just go great. And this has been the most perfect birth, especially for a first-time mom. She is the best mom. The baby is chugging the milk. I can see her slurping it just in here and see the foam in her mouth, and I get to watch it. Oh, I can see the lopsided udder. This baby is a strong little girl, and she's getting dried off. She's not eating currently. She's getting cleaned. Oh, and she just pooed. I'm seeing all the things, all the boxes you need checked. Okay. With this birth, because it is Suki and not Mia, even though Suki has been raised on our farm, she was not bottle fed like Mia was. I am not her person. I'm definitely Mia's person. Mia trusts me with all her calves. I am definitely keeping my distance with this one. Suki is a wildling. She heard her name, so she's looking at me. She's a wildling. I'm if you have a cow like this and she is a milk cow and she's a little bit crazy, definitely get a kick bar. That'll definitely help you be safe when you start milking. Now with Sook, I'm going to wait and let these hormones calm down and give her probably, well, I'm going to say one thing, but then if things change, I get to change my mind. So I'm going to watch her, and I'm not seeing a ton of swelling on the udder, which is a good thing for Sook. Mia's udder was so swollen her first 2 babies, and I had to really get in there and help her out with the edemia. Suki doesn't look like she's having any edemia, which is just the swelling. And all you really do for it, all I do is I get some bag balm from the store. It was originally meant for udders. You can get some organic stuff if you feel inclined. Oh, this baby's going for a little nappy pappy. If you so feel inclined to get like the Synergy organic balm, that's perfectly fine, or make your own. That's great too. I just use bag balm. It works great. Not noticing any of that. I'm not going to plan on milking her for 2 weeks. And she's a first time milker and she's a wildling. So this is really just gonna be taming her and training her to the stand. Now, if her udder starts getting crazy huge and crazy uncomfortable, or it looks inflamed, or it looks like she's getting sick, I'll deal with it. I'm not gonna leave her to her own devices. I'll put her in the stanchion, have a kick bar so it keeps you safe, and then just still be mindful of the cow. Make sure that kick bar is on real good, and that's where we're gonna go with her. So this is gonna be a complete training. Now we have 4 girls now. I don't know what we're doing with any of, well, Mia we're keeping. She's our matriarch. She's my cow. I'm her person. She stays on the farm. People will ask, well, what are you gonna do with all these cows? I have no idea. I know what I'm doing with Mia. I'm keeping Mia. Mia has a place on our farm for her whole life. As long as, I put this caveat in, as long as the world is going in the way it is, where it's not so, where we can afford to feed her and she can just be a pet in her old age, she doesn't have to have a purpose. Obviously, if matters worsen, or we first, God forbid, we can't afford to keep a cow anymore or whatever, we'd have to adjust with selling or whatever. As of now, I plan on keeping Mia for the entirety of her life. She's back behind eating breakfast. They got an early breakfast this morning because of this baby. Now with Suki and Miss Patty and Babette, there are 3 girls. Suki's now a cow. We have 2 heifers now. That's too many cows. We are on a little less than 5 acres here in Central Oregon. We don't get a ton of rain. We don't have a lot of grass. We're basically on a dry lot. We do have a meadow that gets grass, but it's not enough, certainly, to have 4 cows on. We feed hay all year round. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's people that have lots of horses around us on a couple of acres, or just the same amount of acreage as us. They have more horses than we have cows, and they do it. But do I need 4 family milk cows? No, I don't need 4 family milk cows, that's for sure. I have not figured out what we're going to do with these 3 girls. Mia obviously stays. I would love to have a second cow, which we have 4. So basically now I'm just going to be training, and that's what I'm surrendering this life to right now. Is I'm at home with my boys. I got to train up these cows. That's my job. When I was a little girl, we lived on this 100-acre horse ranch in Eastern Washington. People would bring me their ponies or horses. I was just like 9, and I would train them up. I could train a horse for you. It's been a few years. Probably definitely need some brushing up. Cows is a whole new ball game. But I've trained Mia. Mia was 3 months old when we brought her home. I trained her to be a milk cow. I feel confident. The only difference is, which is a big difference, is Mia was bottle fed. So she was in your pocket. She's still an in your pocket kind of cow. Suki was raised on her mama. Miss Patty was raised on her mama. We've started with Miss Patty, but she's still a wildling, but she's still small enough, and we separate her from her mom at night so we can work with her. Suki, on the other hand, is a full-grown giant cow, and we did not work with her. So we got a collar on her. You would have thought she was losing every ounce of freedom after she got it on, and was so mad at me that whole day. She was so angry when she got on. She was trying to do everything, rubbing all over the ground, trying to get it off, rubbing on trees, rubbing on fences, trying to get it off. Still on. She thought she was legit losing her freedom, which she was, but not Exactly, because she's still crazy. She's a wild girl. I've also been praying that Suki would just really calm down after she gave birth. It can happen. I'm not expecting her to calm down in the next few weeks, like this week at all, or next week. Those hormones are raging, y'all. So I'm respecting the perimeter, and my kids are not allowed to go in here without me. And yeah, we're just gonna be respectful. These chickens are not respecting this perimeter. We got to get these chickens in the coop. We cleaned out the coop yesterday. It's looking good. That was a winter project. We cleaned out this barn. We're about to do a big farm. It should have been done by now, but the guy that's doing it for us, our handyman, wasn't able to get to us. But we're moving back some fences. We're moving the solar panels. We're where they are currently, we have to get up on the roof and get the snow off. And speaking of snow, it's in the forecast. We're under a winter weather advisory currently right now. So it's supposed to be 56 today. And tonight we get snow. Saturday's a high of 38, which isn't freezing all day, but it's getting close, which means it's time. It's the end of October. This time last year on the 22nd, we had our first snow. 23rd and the 26th was actually when I broke my nose with the cow, milking the cow, Mia, which before I had the kick bar, which is why I got the kick bar. So it's almost been a year since the last time I broke my nose. The first time I broke my nose, and hopefully the last. I'm feeling like a real cowgirl because this life was a massive dream of mine since I was a little girl. Like reading Little House on the Prairie and Anna Green Gables and Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. I loved the life of that style, the style of that life. Having a family cow, having your chickens. Like, I just felt like it was in my blood. And as I got older and found out my genealogy and realized it legit was in my blood, my family came over on the Oregon Trail before it was a trail. They paved the way and brought their dairy cow, and my 5th great grandmother Mary, she brought over her prize position butter churn, and I have that ingrained into my DNA and didn't even know it. But I wanted a cow. When I was a little girl, I'd be like, Mom, can't we just have a milk cow? And she's like, you're never gonna milk the cow, which I wouldn't have, but now I have 4. And one day maybe we'll have a bigger property and it'll be feasible to keep all 4 of these girls, or to have 4 dairy cows. But in all reality, you need a family milk cow. And if you want to have it all year round, it's good to have 2, just so when the other one needs a break. But I had watched this episode of Justin Rhodes one time, and he was saying he got an email, and the people on there said, you know what? We bred our cow, family cow, 19 years ago. We've been milking her every day since. We didn't know you had to rebreed them. So if you continue to milk your cow, and they didn't know you had to rebreed every year, if you continue to milk your cow and you make that commitment, which it is a commitment, then you don't ever have to rebreed again. And right now, if we wanted a cow for next year, we would have had to breed all over again. We don't need any more cows. We do need milk, but that's not a problem right now. It could be something we look into where we grafted a cow onto Mia so we don't have to milk every day. It's nice to have that freedom. Buy one, and I feel like she would take a calf once Miss Patty's weaned. It's just one of those things, you know? This whole week, I'm just going to give you a spiel. This whole week has been a dream. So 2 weeks ago, we butchered some meat chickens, which has always been a dream of mine. I talked about it with friends and family and be like, trying to get people to go in on doing meat chickens with me. And then my sister once had this mean rooster and she needed it taken care of. And I was like, well, this is good practice. And it was traumatizing. It was stupidly traumatizing. Like, I was like, I don't want to ever kill anything again. I killed this rooster and it was terrible. It was a mean sucker of a rooster though, like terrorizing the children and hurting them. And it was a bad situation. He needed to go. And it was just a bad experience for me. And I just let it linger with me way too long, like way unnecessarily. Yes, respect the animal, but do not make it go months and months where you're like thinking about it. That's ridiculous. I know that now. But it was a bad experience And that kind of put the brakes on the meat chickens for me. But it's been a dream for years. I had, not since I was a little girl, but the milk cow definitely was. Meat chickens, I always wanted it. But after that, I was like one of those things where I was like, oh, we're going to put the brakes on it. My husband wasn't involved. My parents didn't really want to do it. My sister didn't really want to do it. And then 2020 happened. And during 2020, the Lord really spoke to my family, my extended family, and was like, really, they got into, by now the video of my mom is out and you can see that she's the reluctant gardener, but she's doing it and doing it well. Because of that, they've had this, my dad and I went in on pigs in 2020 or 2021. We bought these just cheap pigs off Craigslist. And we got 4 pigs for $350. And the guy said they were coonies. We don't know. We still have this breeding stock. And we have the Papa Pig, and we have Pepper Potts, which is the matriarch of our pigs. And one was a feeder pig. Another one was a sow. And so we had 2 breeding mamas and a papa. And we have already had the butcher our feeder pig, that meat. And we had that meat. We did not raise that pig totally, and we didn't butcher it ourselves. And so that was the kind of the thing. My dad and I got into this pig business, sort of. And I've sold some piglets to some family friends and not much else. But right now we have 8 pigs that we need to butcher this fall, which we are starting that next week. November 4th. We'll butcher our first pig and just have a go around it. And then we have about 4 other families that want to help out, and we've offered them meat and to help out, and we're just learning a skill. My father built a smokehouse. Like, this is all coming together, and my whole family is on board. My husband is supportive. He's not really involved. He did help with the butchering a little bit. He's very busy with football, but now football's over. He's going to be helping out with the pig butchering, and we're doing it all ourselves this time. And this is a step where I never thought I'd be. I never thought I would be here butchering a pig myself. I just thought that was too big. And we had decided if we were going to have a bull calf that we were going to do that ourselves too. I think that this life was a massive dream, and it felt so unattainable. I would have to do it all by myself. I would have had to have done the chicken butchering all by myself. I just didn't have the help. Finances wasn't an issue in this family. It was doing it on my own. Nobody was like gung-ho about doing butchering. And eventually my sister started gardening, my parents started gardening, and they felt that it was important to have our own animals, which is when we got the pigs. Then my sister and I, just this past spring, went to the homesteading conference up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's the first one on the West Coast, big one on the West Coast. And I knew Joel Salatin was going to be there, which Joel Salatin is a guy. He owns Polyface Farms over in Virginia, and he is pasture raising chickens, teaches you all how to do it humanely, why to do it, educates you why you need to be growing your own chicken, and yada yada yada, tells you how to save money on the food and all of this stuff, just like a wealth of knowledge. And I have read his books, and he was going to be there. And I was like, okay, he was doing a live demonstration of a chicken butchering. And Bethany, my sister, and I went up, and she was gung ho. We got there an hour early. And we got the front row. And I was like, I wanted to go to the chicken butchering. That was definitely on my list. I did not want to be in the front row. But at this point, my sister's mind was made up, and she wanted to be in the front row. And because we were in the front row, we got to talk to Joel. And that was really cool. And we got to interact with him throughout the thing and ask him all the questions we wanted. And I got to see firsthand him do the chicken butchering in a way that was honoring of the animal, but yet it wasn't emotional, how I had made it with that rooster. I was nervous when he first did the kill, and I didn't want to look, and I was like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And he did it, and it was done. And with meat birds, I can compartmentalize it in my brain where these birds, which I know firsthand, if you don't get them butchered within a timely manner, they're going to die on their own. They start getting too overweight, which we had a couple that happened, and they can't walk. We were planning on butchering at 10 weeks. We had to butcher at 9 weeks because our birds were starting to get so heavy. They were getting so heavy that they weren't able to walk, and then they were getting trampled on by the other birds and dying. It's a hard thing to hear, but that's what was happening. So we did emergency butcher date, and we cold 10, just my parents and my sister and I that day. And then 2 days later, we had everybody come out, which our husbands and kids and, well, my son helped out the first day, and Bethany, my oldest nephew and my oldest son helped out the first day. And then it was all hands on deck the following 2 days later, or 3 days later on a Saturday, and we did the whole thing. It does help to have community with chickens. It's expensive. Let's go over to the garden. In this garden, guys, it's unlimited time. It looks beautiful today. It's gonna get cold. It's gonna get real cold. Being in that front row and just watching the process of, the water trough is iced over, but it looks like it got broken up, so that's okay. Time to get the water heaters in. Watching Joel just do it and being able to ask the questions just really, I was glad we sat front row. I was like really hoping we'd sit like in the 10th row, but my sister was so adamant. She had made up her mind that she was going to learn from Joel and we were going to get chickens. It was kind of wild how it all happened. We were on the way up to that homesteading conference. We were talking to, the youth pastor had called and needed some help from us for some things. And we told them what we were doing, and they were like, we've been wanting to do it. He's married, they're young in their 20s, and they wanted to go in on it with us. And I'm going to insert some clips. We just look profesh with our fencing, you know.
We do. With this electric fencing, we look like
Yes.
Nothing can get out.
That's the idea, right?
and all three of them can go to youth next year.
Or you could do one and you could do one.
Okay, get over here because I told Mary we were sending her a picture.
The homesteading conference changed our lives. My sister and I, we came back different people. A conference can do that to you. If you are local, if you are in the Pacific Northwest, anywhere near a driving distance of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, or anywhere near a homesteading conference, get your tail up there. If this is your dream, I believe our husbands are coming up next year. My big dream of mine that I am speaking into existence is to one day be asked to be a speaker up there, and that would just be a massive dream. But this life seems so unattainable to me. Yet here it is. I'm literally living it. I have 20 meat chickens, well, 19 now, in my freezer. Processed, big, fat, beautiful 8-pounders, some of them, 6-pound birds, double the size of my organic birds I was getting from Costco. They're huge. It's like the size of a small turkey. We cooked up one of the big ones, the 7-8-pounders. It took 2.5 hours to cook all the way through. I cannot tell you how good it tasted to have that. My children had to actually eat something else that night because I didn't realize it was going to take 2.5 hours to cook, and I started it late. I pull it out and it's just me and Trey up at night, and just thinking I'm cutting him up some meat, helping him pack his lunch for the next day, and realizing I'm like, this is extremely emotional for me. I am cutting up this bird, and in this cast iron pan, I have potatoes and onions loaded up in it and all around this chicken. And I realized everything in that pan, I grew. To the bird, to the potatoes, to the onions. And I'm like, Trey, everything on this thing. And I have heard other homesteaders say one day you'll just be cooking and everything will be from your farm, and it just won't seem like, it'll just be normal. And it was normal. It was so normal until I took the time to think about it, and it was like everything in this cast iron skillet I grew. And I harvested with my own 2 hands. This meal took 6 months to come together, and I just threw it in a pan. It was a quick dinner, and I threw it in a pan, or threw it in a skillet and threw it in the oven, and it was easy, but it wasn't. Months and months of preparation and dreams took to make that meal. And we came together as a community on a whim. with our youth pastor at church, my parents, and my sister and brother-in-law and Trey and I's family, we pitched in. It was expensive this year, but I did the math. So here in Oregon, we have friends that live in the Valley of Oregon, which is Portland, Salem, Eugene, the valley, where normally you people think of Oregon as rainy and wet and Portland. But over here on the other side of the mountains, we're in the high desert and it's quite dry. And when we get rain, it's a treat. This year's been a little wetter than normal. We have friends that live over there and they're selling meat chickens, non-GMO meat chickens for $34, $35 a bird. So when you do that math, for us, I think it was $720 for the 20 chickens we would get if we were to purchase them from a farm. And we bought all the butchering knives, the chicks, obviously. We bought the plucker, which was an Amazon Prime deal that my parents and I and my sister's family, we went in on the plucker and we went on the butchering equipment. So, because we wanted to have it at the farm. And then with our family friends also, we went in on the lumber and everything, and we worked to build the chicken tractor itself. And then my parents and my sister and I, we built the brooder in a horse stall in their barn, and it was really nice. We just had a lot of leftover netting, plastic black netting, and we made it super fancy. I had one already, but I had to buy a bigger one, a heat plate for the chicks. And I think we have 2 or 3 heat plates now for the amount of birds we got, which we got 100. I think we went to butcher with only 86, so we had lost quite a few. For our first time, that's not bad though. A lot we shared with my family that we knew we'd do it over and over again, and with the extra youth pastor and his wife, we didn't split as much because we weren't sure of if they'd want to do it again. So we built the chicken. We worked together on a lot of things. If people didn't work on it, they financially contributed more, if that makes sense. We actually raised them over at my parents' property, and my sister took care of them every day, so she didn't have to buy any of the feed. She just did the work, which 3 families that didn't have to take care of them every day we purchased all the feed, but I did the totaling. And if we were to purchase the birds from a farm that was quite expensive, for $34, $35 a bird, we still saved about $150 on just our portion with going in halvesies. Now, where it gets more affordable is when you already have the equipment. So this spring, when we do it again, which all of us are game because it was so good, the birds are so good, it went so smoothly. We were highly educated on we watched it firsthand. My parents got into this. We were all very educated on what to do and how to do it, and the scolding temperature and the plucker and the kill cones and the eviscerating and all the knives and all the sharpening, and we were prepared, and it was beautiful. It went so smooth that you would have thought we'd done it before. Now, there was some trial and error with the gutting and figuring all that out again and really getting it finessed. Oh, my Brussels are growing good. I'm worried about them, but with all the finesse and all it worked itself out. And surely there's some chicken skins that are a little choppier than we'd want them to be, and that way you can tell it's our first time. But so we still have room to grow in that sense, where we can get better and cleaner on the cuts when we're, I don't know, getting the bird all cleaned up. But it went so beautiful. This life is such a dream that when I was a little girl, I dreamed of milk cows. Now I have 4. This homestead dream of having my own meat birds and butchering all things I didn't even imagine was possible. Butchering our own hogs, which is next week. Like, I didn't have this in my brain. I had no one to come alongside me, and eventually people saw the worth of it. They felt the call to be homesteaders as well, and here we are, growing community locally, which I didn't think was possible. Is this raspberry blooming? Yep. It is loaded with blossoms. Wrong time of year, sister. And here we are having this dream going above and beyond what I had envisioned for this homestead life. I had no idea that then it started with my family, and Now we have an accidental community. It's just kind of this beautiful thing where you have community where you didn't expect it. And there's so many more people in the community that want to know how to do this, or there's so much, it's happening. My boys are coming out, so the geese are honking. This life is becoming more than whatever I had imagined. And the possibilities, the actuality of it coming into my kitchen, and the chicken being in my skillet that we raised 9 weeks, guys, start to finish, 9 weeks. That is baffling to me. It's so quick, especially for meat birds. And yes, you can get more sustainable and grow out birds that take longer, and I understand that. But for the while we still have access to good feed, and while we still have access to these quick maturing birds, why not utilize it? I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to learn a skill that is legit in your DNA. Something that's interesting to me is my husband's family, who I would never have thought would be interested into this, to want to get a garden going, and they live in the outskirts of Washington, D.C. They called me for my birthday a couple weeks ago, and we had just the week prior finished butchering the chickens. And they were like, "Oh, we heard you butchered some chickens." And I was like, "Yeah, it was amazing." And we're about to butcher some pigs. And my father-in-law was like, "This is how I was raised. He's like, I am so proud of you guys." And he just kept saying how proud he was of us. We all have this in us where we want to learn to go back to the garden, where we want to go back to the land, where we want to raise our own meat and have that security. You might not have any land or much land to start, but you can learn, you can harness your skills. When we lived in a rental property in West Virginia, that's where I learned to can. That's where I learned to cook. That's where I watched all the things. And maybe the shows I watched back then, I loved the Pioneer Woman. I'd still like her. She cooks a lot with store-bought ingredients, and that's a great place to start. Now with inflation, you might want to start making a lot more from scratch, but even buying like a can of pasta sauce. This is the first year I'm having my own canned pasta sauce. It's in my house right now. It's on my counter. I just canned a crap ton of tomatoes, and this is my first year. First year of having enough tomatoes to put up for my family for probably the entire winter. This is the first year I have a freezer full of chicken to last my family until spring, until we do it again. This is going to be the first year where I have enough bacon and sausage where I'm not going to the store. We still have half of our cow in our freezer, our other freezer. We have our own meat, beef. We have our own chicken. We have our own pork. The only difference with our beef is we did have somebody come out to the farm. The pigs are squealing. They're getting hungry. It's feeding time. Somebody come out to our farm and butcher our steer for us on our farm. We won't be doing that again. We will do it ourselves. We don't have a steer, but if we did, we'd be doing it ourselves. You can start it in such a way where it starts small. It's in your kitchen. It's learning how to cook from the Pioneer Woman or from anybody on YouTube. Mary's Nest is perfect. She teaches you medicinal and canning and cooking and all these things of traditional ways. You can learn it where you are. There's literally no excuse. It's cheaper to buy these ingredients. All these plants are growing back up. My hollyhocks are starting over again. My lilac is budding. My raspberries are blooming. It's been a weird fall. It's been quite warm. Hasn't been freezing down in the teens, so everything's starting to regrow. Starting to stress me out. Are you going to be all right, people? Getting sidetracked, but you can do it wherever you are. It doesn't matter race, religion, culture. This goes beyond this style of life. Being prepared, learning these skills goes back to everybody's basic roots of basic DNA. All of us came from somewhere, some culture that grew their own food. All of us. It just is such a beautiful thing when it comes down to it. And this fall, my mom always joked, she's like, it's going to be a bloody fall because we were butchering a lot of our own animals. But it's also been so much more than that. Yeah, we are having to do the ugly part of that, but it's building community. It's learning new skills. It's taking us back. It's inspiring others. It's inspiring my frickin' self when I'm in the kitchen with my skillet and all my stuff I grew, and it's beautiful. Do you know how rewarding that is to have your own skillet full of a chicken that you raised and you killed and you put on the plate? Like, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level. Especially if you live in a warmer climate than us. Even if you do live where we are, get out, get your garden going, get some animals, get some chickens, get the things you need to do. Spring is going to be coming soon, and it'll be coming soon. It's a perfect time to get some chickens, get some whatever, get a little pig in the backyard. Do what you can. Get some self-sufficiency. If you have to start with having a butcher come out and do it, start with the butcher coming out and doing it. I did not think this was ever going to be on my radar, that we were going to be processing our animals myself. I thought maybe I could raise some meat chickens and send them off to a local butcher that does it, and that's good too. All of these are good things. Get involved with a group that's already doing it. Harness this skill. Find community that has similar interests in you. And it is hard. This is a recent thing for me, and I have had my cow for 6 years now, and my gardens for 5 years. We've lived here for almost 9 years. This coming March will be 9 years since we bought our home. It has taken time to find people that have like-minded, and a lot of them are my family that just, I wore them down for years and years about talking about the importance of this, and they just didn't care. They did not care. It's been a whole renewal of the mind. Pray for your family. Pray for them to see the importance of this. Pray. I think this is the most valuable thing I can teach my children, and this is the most valuable thing I could teach myself on this earth, besides following the Lord with all my heart. Besides loving the Lord, I don't know if any of you have noticed it on the back of my fence. I had painted it last year. And it's love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind. And besides that, and loving my family well, this is the best. This is what I can do. This is what I can do. I can bring my family back to a way that is simple, to a way that was secure, to a way that was how it was meant to be. We were created in a garden, and that's why it feels so right when we go back to a garden. And if you are gardening and you are a reluctant gardener, I talk about it in my video for my book recommendations, the collab with Roots and Refuge, but Jess really showed me the love of how to, opened my eyes. I knew I wanted a garden. I knew I loved it. And before I even was watching YouTube, I would sit on the bank. We had a little 10 by 10 garden in West Virginia where I taught myself how to can, and I canned my own tomatoes. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. I would sit there and I'd water that garden, and I'd sit on the bank because it was flat down here and there was a bank up to the house. I'd sit there and I'd just watch my garden, and I loved it, but I didn't know how to truly love it, if that makes any sense. And then Jess taught me, get a chair in your garden, because where there's a chair, there is rest for the gardener, and when the gardener is in the garden, you tend to the garden. And she would say that she would drive by all these gardens, and it's true if you do it, and she would see a chair, and she knew those people, and those gardens were always better kept. And where there wasn't a chair in a garden, it was overgrown and wild and crazy, and they just would give up because they weren't resting, they weren't enjoying it. Now, I didn't have a chair in that first garden, and it got crazy, but I would sit on that bank and I would admire it, and I would just love it. But I had originally a stump. There's my first garden chair, and I would sit on that stump. Then I had my rocking chair, which needs refinished, and now I have these comfy chairs. It's a progression of upgrading. And I would sit on my garden stump, and I'm praying and worshiping the Lord and getting in here. And as I'm working in this garden, it's therapy, and you fall in love. And Jess taught me how to be in the garden. And from there, it was a springboard of the Lord just kind of captivating me in here, and this becoming my sanctuary. And above all else, teaching me to love and steward this land, and teaching and allowing the Lord to show me who he is in the garden, and who he is in general. It's a beautiful thing. Gardening and going back to the land. Learn how to just love the garden. My mom, reluctant gardener, she's been praying that she will love the garden. And because of Jess teaching me, my mom says she watches me in my garden and sees how much I love it. And she realizes that she too can love it. And she prays in the garden that she will love it and she will steward it well. And she's starting to just love the garden. So it is a contagious thing when people see how much you love that garden, or see how amazing it is when you go to a friend's and you bring them a basket of goodies, or they come over for dinner and you're like, that potato came from the garden, that onion came from the garden, these carrots, these tomatoes this sauce I grew, the garlic I grew, this chicken I grew, or this beef or this pork, all came from this farm. Everything that is at this table came from this farm. And some of you may be leaps and bounds ahead of me, leaps and bounds. And some of you may be me, starting in a rental home, learning how to cook from the pioneer woman. We're all at different stages, and that's the beauty of the homesteading community. And beauty of community itself is in that it's different life phases and learning from each other and gleaning from each other. And now I'm learning things from my sister who learned things from me, and my parents are teaching me things, and my mom is showing me different ways to store things because she's getting into this and she's learning ways to store cabbages, and I'm listening to her and I'm learning from her where she learned from me, and it's just this beautiful life cycle. Or my in-laws, who I believe watch my YouTube channel, and they get to learn from me and learn how to do garden methods, and they're going to do a no-dig garden in their south of DC, across the whole entire country from us. And it's just amazing how one little girl from Oregon falls in love with Little House on the Prairie, falls in love with Anna Green Gables and that lifestyle of old, and now has it in her own little backyard. Technically it's my front yard, but has it all right here. And I might not be transforming the entire world, but I am transforming my world. The world of the lives of my children, and where if they stay with this life or not, they will know this life, and they will always be able to come back to this life with us on a farm. This life has just invigorated my soul, has brought me to life in a way I never thought was possible. And there are hard times. I'm watching my best friend right now go through some hard times on their farm. They just bought their farm in outside of Sisters, Oregon, and they got goats, and we gave them our goats, and they've lost a few goats this year. Where there's livestock, there's dead stock. You are going to have losses of you will have that, and they're losing animals one after another, and they're just having a heck of a time. They're just in the trenches of life. I see them, and they're going through it, and I went through that, and that is, once you will go through an extremely difficult time with farming. You will. With homesteading, you will. You'll lose your crops, you'll lose your gardens, you'll lose animals, one after the other. 2020 was that for us, like bam, 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 bam. We lost animals after animals, and it was discouraging. It was hard. But coming out and with more wisdom and more things, all these terrible things happen to you, you learn the wisdom. That's how people become your mentors, because they've gone through all the crap that you are going through. They've gone through all the terrible trauma with animals, and it's hard sitting out in the middle 2 a.m. pulling a calf out of its mom and it's dead before you get it out to the ground. It's hard doing that stuff. But then when you successfully graft on that calf, when you successfully have 3 more births on your farm, when you successfully raise chickens and process them and grow a garden and never give up, it is the best. I can't even say it's a feeling. It's your life. It feels fulfilled. Like your soul feels fulfilled, because this is what we were created to do. This is where we were created to be, to work our hands into the soil, to be in stewarding the animals. This is what we were created to be. So when you get to do it on a homestead level, on a small scale, wherever you are in the world, it brings you back to our roots. Cross-culturally, our roots. There are hard times. I've gone through them. My best friend's going through them. You will go through them. But when you persevere, you learn wisdom. You gain wisdom. You know what to do. Now I have a vet bag full of all the things I might need to do and everything. I have the capabilities of pulling a calf. I know how to do it. Sometimes you don't want to do it, but you have to make yourself do it, because you know if you don't, worse things are going to happen. You have to cull these chickens, because if you leave them to their own devices and what you think is humane, like these batch of meat chickens, they're going to die on their own, and then you lose all their money and their life is meaningless. But those meat chickens are born to die if you do not process them and save them and put them up into your kitchen and let them sustain your family. They're going to die regardless. Let their life be full. Let their life be meaningful. A garden is hard work. Raising animals is hard work. But if it's in you at all, if it's a snowball, I'll warn you. You learn how to cook, then you're like, I need the best ingredients. The best ingredients are expensive. Oh, I'm gonna have to grow them myself. Starts with a garden, then it starts with some chickens, then it starts with then a goat or a dairy cow, and then it's all these crazy. Then your life is this: you live on a homestead, you raise your own meat, you don't buy meat from the store anymore, you got your own milk. You got to learn how to make cheese. That's where I'm at. I got to learn how to make more products with my milk. I got to learn how to do more things. And you start into herbalism and it just spirals. But there's nothing more I'd rather be doing. This life is a dream that has come into fulfillment and I'm living it. That's what I got to say. That was a long video. And if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. And thank you so much for following along with this life that I so love. I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys. Update real quick. Suki has let me come up to the calf. I've rubbed her down. Suki has not minded me. Still don't let my children out here with her. We're progressing. Yes, little Babette. Oh my gosh. What a doll. Hi, sweet girl. Never take your eye off. That's Grandma, Mia. Never take your eye off Mama. No, we don't. We don't. We don't. I'm not taking my eye off Sook. She's eyeballing me. This baby keeps following me around and got a hold of her. I got to hold her, got to touch her, double check she's a girl. Definitely a girl. She's on her way over to me right now. And she seems to like me. She's a doll. Just like. Okay, never turn your back on a crazy mama cow. Never turn your back. Okay, now I'm going. Also, we have a blanket. We ordered a little blanket for her, for this calf, because we knew it was going to be born in late October and there's possibility of snow. And so I got this little cute little blanket for her, and I might have to get it on tonight. We'll see. It's going to get some snowy and rainy and wet. We're going to get some straw in the barn for them and make sure they at least have a dry place and warm place they can go, and get this baby a blanket if need be. Right, Dookie? Hi, little one. Oh my gosh. There's Mama. First snowfall. Grandma. You're a grandma, Mia. What are we gonna do about that?